Hey everyone, my name is Jessica Malthus. I'm a nurse scientist and associate professor in the School of Medicine, Department of Pediatrics. I just wanted to start off this learning short thinking about alternative ways of dissemination. And what do I mean by that? I mean, taking our work as scientists or those involved in the scientific community and disseminating in ways that really reach the public and foster public engagement and enrichment that really demonstrates the impact of our science in different ways. And so one way to think about that is using an infographic to share kind of the key messages of our science. So I'm using one that is based on my own work. So just for context, this was a funded study from the Lucille Packard Foundation. They funded a study for me to assess the variability of Medicaid waivers for children with medical complexity. So who is the key target of this infographic? Really, the key target would be actually state administrators of Medicaid and other key policymakers. So for me, the target would have to know something about waivers. I give a very, very broad overview about kind of the key findings, but really my target is probably not the general public, but a more involved kind of state level administrator who I want to get my message across pretty quickly. So here you can see that I try to use pictures and figures that are easy to kind of take in and almost like snapshots from my science. So this is slightly different than what I would present in a normal kind of manuscript or peer-reviewed manuscript. And really is focused in on some of the key messages. So if a state administrator was looking at this who was involved with waivers, they could see really quickly how the spending is divided by subgroup. And hopefully from this, they would take away that those deemed with what they classify as mental illness, these children would have the fewest amount of dollars per case really across the board. That's a national finding. We also can look very quickly and see what are the percentages of different waivers available. Again, this is a quick national snapshot for someone who was in this space. I think at the bottom of the infographic, we could see if I was, from a state, this would be a very quick overview of how our coverage compared to other states. And so in Virginia, we're kind of in the middle. This is a heat graph that the darker colors represent a higher coverage for children with medical complexity among these Medicaid waivers. Virginia, I could see very quickly that we're kind of in the middle ground, but to me, that means that there's likely room for improvement. And it also kind of targets, if I was a state, I might want to reach out to a state like Minnesota to see what they're doing and the programming that they have. So again, an infographic is great at getting across a very quick snapshot of the findings in a way that discerns kind of the key takeaways that are actionable and lead to public engagement with key stakeholders. In this specific example, the key stakeholder, as I said, is probably a state administrator. The other end of the infographic is really focused on next steps, so they could get kind of an overview of what we believe the next steps are for this study, and certainly key contact information that tells you more about how to reach out to us. This is actually a link to the Open Science Framework, which we can talk about in the future, which is a great place, a repository for data and for key decisions that were made during the research process. So again, just to summarize, infographics represent one version of an alternative in dissemination, one that is relatively easy to navigate. I made this infographic on my own, and I am by no means really good at design. So I use something like Canva. You can get a free login. There are other companies out there that are really targeted to making free infographics. So this was something that was free. I didn't pay for, and it honestly probably took me less than an hour from start to finish. I could send this out, and I did send this out to the key Medicaid administrators. You could also send your peer-reviewed manuscript for sure, but I guarantee that they're probably more likely to take away what was in an infographic compared to the full article. It's a great way to connect back with folks that helped at any point during your study. It's a nice way to deliver results back. Again, you could see how this could be very targeted for community-based engagement to deliver results back. Those who were in your study, even just to give a snapshot of what the key findings were, because we know that we rarely do that. So just think about infographics as an alternative way of disseminating key study findings. It's easy to do. It's easy to kind of ingest the key findings. It's a nice connection for next steps and keeps your key stakeholders really involved with the impact of your science. So I look forward to talking with you all next time.